Hello, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can hear my voice and at the same time see my screen clearly. This is 26th of April. So today's webinar, we're going to look at the advantage of incorporating news into your normal trading. I do understand that some of us do not look at news completely. They consider news as something that is passing by. But in my opinion, news is very, very important. If you want to get it right in the forex market, you need to understand fully how news comes into your trading, so that you really know exactly what to do and when to do what you're doing. So as I was saying, news is it's a key fundamental towards trading that you as the trader you have to take into perspective. You can't be trading and you don't look at news, then you expect to be successful. So you have to find a way of incorporating news into your trading. If you don't really understand what news is or how to trade news, you can get real-time analysis from this link here. This is on the FreshForex website. We do have analysis in English. We do have analysis in all the languages that we offer. So you can see, if you're looking at the charts today, you could have seen that there is a negative micro statistics from the United States. There is easing inflation pressure, and then there is Chinese incentives. So you could have seen this and known that it is true that there is news which is affecting the currency pair which I'm trading. So you align your strategies with what you see written here. So there is also a place, if you want to know exactly the news that are going to happen, we do have a very good economic calendar here. It is just a second. So we do have a calendar where everything is written. Let it load. It's not that this is red, this is this color, then there is another color, this one. No, this is not the correction. Actually, these colors mean way much more. They tell you exactly which news is important, because not all the news are important. Like, you can't just be trading news every day. You can't find that all news affects everyone. No, news affects specific side of the currency market. Like here, when they say euro and then they give this news here, it means that this news is of medium impact, not much impact, but it affects the euro or currency pairs that have euro in them. We also have this where we have wholesale inventory You can click it to learn more exactly what that is, or you can just find online exactly what that stands for. You can see it's a wholesale inventory, reflects the change in total value of goods held in store by wholesalers in specific month compared to the previous one. The secondary indicator has a limited impact on the market. However, outstocking may indicate stagnation in the economy. So you can see that there is actually some notes that you can read and understand what the news entails. You can also get the actual forecast. You can get the forecast, which was this is the actual value which has just been read, but there's a forecast of 2, but this was the previous, so it means there's a reduction. So this is one way you have to get the news. You can get it through the FreshForex website. You just go to here, just a second, it is under analytics, and then you go to the Forex economic calendar. You can also get signals for trading. You can go through all this and find the correct one. And then this also is an element of news. This is also an interest rate. So interest rates is basically the cost of lending and the cost of borrowing. So that's basically how to put. You can do a lot of research as to what that entails: cost of borrowing, cost of lending. You can do a research how that affect a given currency. But just to give you a brief preview, assuming there are several lenders. But few people who want to be lent to. That is, there are very few people who want to get the money from the lenders, but we do have a lot of lenders. What that means is lending will be very cheap, which means for you to borrow from a company, that person is going to give you money. They must be willing to give you the least interest rate, like the least cost of borrowing from that company, for you to be able to borrow from them. So that's where the interest rate comes in case it's a lender, something is in case of a lender. But in case of you put your money in a bank and you expect the money to increase, then the bank will tell you, okay, we'll be giving you this amount of money every year, every month, or after this duration. The amount of money which you get from the bank, excess of what you give the bank, that is known as the interest rate. Are we on the same page? So whatever you get, the amount of money which you get from the bank as a result of have them keeping your money for you, that is known as an interest rate. The higher the interest rate, the more likely you're going to deposit money, which means you're going to earn more money by lending them. It's like now you're the lender, you're now giving bank the money. When you deposit your money on a fixed account, or when the bank says they need people to give the money, then that becomes you're now the loaner. You're the one giving the bank money, and the bank is supposed to give you an interest rate after given duration. So anytime there is a high cost of borrowing, if for example, if you take a company like Facebook, it's strictly based online. They have websites, yes, but it is strictly based, most work is done online. Assuming they want to borrow money, and they rely on money for expansion, that is for them to increase their services, they need to borrow money from those people, the banks, or maybe institutional governments. They need to borrow money from such institution. So when they need to borrow money, the most important thing is they check the interest rate that the company is going to give them that loan on. So if they find for any reason that the interest rate is very high, they shy off from borrowing. And what that means is their expansion is limited. And when the expansion is limited, which means there is no growth. When there's no growth, it means investors tend to shy away. They start selling the shares that they're having. So I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. I've started from the point where Facebook needs money for them to expand. The money they need, they have to get it from a bank. So they now realize that bank is charging a lot of money. Like bank is going to give them at a very high interest rate. High interest rate means that for every dollar they're going to pay a lot of money to. It's going to be very expensive to borrow. So Facebook says, okay, we can't borrow at this time. Let us stop this expansion and wait for the interest rate to be reasonable. Then we can now go ahead and start borrowing. So when there is no expansion, it means there is less growth. Less growth means that investors, those people who are investing, that will begin to question themselves that how comes there is no expansion. They begin to shy off, they begin to stop investing, they begin to pull out. Some people begin to sell their shares, and some people they just begin to dispose their shares. That causes the price of the shares of that specific company to go down. Does that make sense? So the same thing is if a company is owned by a firm which is So the same thing, if a company is owned by a controversial individual, that's an individual that have issues, maybe the person has been declared bankrupt or has been accused of several fraudulent activities, chances are that if the investors hear such news, then they begin to pull out the investment in that given company. So that can also cause the share price of a company to go down. This is why news is very, very, very important, because you never know what happens. Is you have to find which company that specific news affects. So if the news affects Facebook, you now focus on that company. If the news affects maybe Johnson & Johnson, you focus on that company. When the news affects just the US dollar, you focus strictly on currency pairs that are directly connected to the US dollar. That does not mean that the other currencies which are not affected by US dollar will not be affected. No, they will still be affected, because the forex market is holistic. That is, it works as a whole. Nothing survives on its own. That is, if you are trading the GBPUSD, you have to understand how that GBPUSD affects other currency pairs, and you also have to understand how the news which is being released affect the US dollar. Otherwise, you'll be trading something, you'll just be seeing prices going up while your indicator is showing something else. You see the prices going down while your forecast is showing something else. You'll be seeing this price stagnating without knowing exactly why that is happening. So anytime you find that the price is in a range, that is, there is no direction, we are not going upwards, we are not going downwards, the price is not making any major, more serious movements, just know behind the scenes that there is maybe a specific news that people are waiting for to make decisions. It could be that they're waiting to see that the price is to see some news being released concerning certain things, or they're waiting to see whether that news is going to affect that given currency pair, or they're just waiting to see the impact of that given news on something else for them to make decisions on what you are waiting for. So these are some of the things you're supposed to focus on. We are not just trading one thing. So I'll explain something else. When you're on this chart, for example, assuming you're looking at this chart, FreshForex has made it very, very good. That is, you can even receive news in your MT4. You can see exactly what's happening. You can see there's some news here. This is the same news which you've seen now. There's some news here. There are a lot of news that they are currently sending. So all these news, you can incorporate them into your trading. Just ensure that you understand that this given news affect this given currency, and this is what we expect to be happening after this duration. So let me give you just a good strategy. Then, assuming we have a news coming up in the next 1 hour, we have news coming up. So assuming we have the news coming up in the next 1 hour or so, what happens is, if you see this happening, you see something like that, you just need to go to your chart. So when you see this happening, you just need to go to your chart, identify the high and the low, and then get the low within that trend. Wait for price to ascend below that trend, like it has happened here. So when this happened, it's usually a very, very good sign that we are now going to see a possible continuation in that direction. So since it is news, as I mentioned in the previous webinar, you don't just enter trades and keep holding it. No. When you're trading news, you enter the trade and exit as fast as possible. So you'll enter the trade, wait for it to make money, 2 pips, 3 pips, 4 pips, and you step out of that trade. The same thing would have happened here. This is possible an effect of news here, where you find price being within some range here, you find price being within a range, then suddenly the price either breaks above or it breaks below it. When this happens, just know that the price is going to continue in that direction. So the same thing will happen here. This could also be an impact of news. This may as well be an impact of news. After the news has happened, you see the price sparks in one direction. This is also news. So if the news affects the Canadian dollar, just give focus to the Canadian dollar itself and look for currency pairs where you have the Canadian dollar as the base currency or the quote currency, and you trade strictly based on what the news says. So if the best way is to identify the extreme highs and the extreme lows 15 minutes before the news is read. Then after the news, you hold on to that trade for some times. You have, like, when this is happening, personally I would put a line here, I would put a pending buy limit, and I'll buy stop, and I would put a pending sell stop here, so that when the price breaks below it, when the price descends below this level, it picks that pending sell stop. I have my stop loss here, and as the price goes my way, I step out as 10 or 5 pips. Is that clear? So this is where you can get news easily. This is the quickest way to get news. You can get it under mailbox here. There is also this one, which this also stands for news. It's a lot. It's almost everywhere, but FreshForex will send you the news here. If you have the platform active, you'll also receive the news here by default. So these are some of the news that we've received so far. There are some which are still coming up. You can also get them here. So if it is true you don't understand how the news affects a given currency pairs, just do a little research. Search online, type the name of that given news, try to find out exactly how that news will affect a given currency pair, and ensure you trade correlation. Okay. Correlation may be a new term. Correlation means when several things are showing us the same thing. That is, when we have GBP USD, GBP NZD, GBP JPY, GBP Euro, all of them are showing you the same thing. That is, if there's a news which affects the British pound, we expect that the British pound across the board should be behaving the same way. That is, when the news says, okay, we do expect that the British pound will appreciate. When you see such a news, ensure that before you buy the British pound blindly, it is true, it is actually appreciating across the board. That's the first thing. Just ensure it is true that it is appreciating, not that you are guessing. It is appreciating across the board, which means all the places where the British pound is, you are expecting to see that we are indeed going upwards. That's the only time when the news becomes relevant. Are we on the same page? Good. So for example, for instance, when you're here and you find, always focus on this news, the high impact news. When you find this news, it affects the US dollar, go into your charts. Try looking for currency pairs that are moving in the same direction. Currency pairs that have USD, the US dollar, either as the base currency or the quote currency. Try to find cases where it is either the base currency, the quote currency, and is doing something the same. Put together currency pairs that are moving in the same direction, but they have the US dollar. Currency pairs that are moving in opposite direction, but they also have the US dollar. And ensure that you're now trading in the direction of the majority. That is, if majority of them are upwards and there is a good majority that's opposite, that is the correct time to enter trades. It's the correct time to trade that news. It's actually the ideal time to start saying that, okay, this is now upwards, this is now, we are now heading to the upper side, or we're heading to the lower side. Are we on the same page? Like this news here, this one, this is important. It affects the US dollar, and this also, it affects the crude oil. So this means that if you're trading oil or the Canadian dollar and the Canadian dollar, you're supposed to focus so much on the impact of this news here. So focus on this news, don't ignore it. I think those are the most important news that we are left with today. There is this which will be coming at 17:30. There is also this one. This is almost going to be there. It affects the US dollar like 10 minutes from now. And then there is this one. This has happened already, so we won't focus so much on it. So that is strictly what I would recommend. That is exactly what I would say that is supposed to focus on. Focus on high impact news. Focus on news that's being currency pairs that are being affected by that given news, and also on correlated pairs. So that is currency pairs that are currently correlating with what the news is saying. So tomorrow we have this one. This is the news we are expecting, and then we are also having pending home sales, this one, and that's tomorrow. Then on Friday we are looking at this one. This is the news we will be expecting, and then these are the news we'll be expecting on Friday. This is another news on Friday. This is another one, and this is another one. Then I think we'll close the week with this news here. So that is basically what we are looking at during this week, and that's how I would recommend you look at news. You can get news over there. There are several sites which are giving news, but it is very, very good. It is very, very ideal if you learn from those that are already trading news how to trade news itself. Like we have a very good page here where we do print news. This one, where we do print analysis of news. You can see we've talked about the most relevant news for the day. So I believe if you don't have any questions, or if you have any questions, you may just let me know. But what we've looked at today is very, very important. Just take it into account. We do have news coming up in the next 7 minutes, so observe it in the light of what we just mentioned, and we'll meet again next week at the same time. Thank you, and see you.